This is TWiT.
So one of the big arguments is in your book is about the digital divide. And, Facebook and Google, they talk about, we have to get the internet to everyone. Everyone needs the internet. But that assumes that everyone wants the internet, which is essentially in many, many ways the American internet. Talk a little bit about that fallacy of the digital divide.
Yeah, I mean, the digital divide is fortunately one of those principles which has had its enough holes poked into it where no longer is it like a widely accepted way of thinking about technology. But basically, the digital divide was super sexy like 15, 20 years ago. And it's funny to think of the digital divide as sexy. Anyway, for me, it was really sexy and interesting. But I think about 5 years ago or so, I think people started to drop the idea a little bit. And so what does the digital divide mean? It means essentially that the divides in our world can be somehow resolved or ameliorated by the mere spread of technology and access to technology. But what that whole premise doesn't even begin to consider is whose technology, right? How are those technologies being built? Who's behind the agendas that distribute technology? Who profits from those technologies? Again, what are the values that drive the distribution and dissemination of technology? And for me, it blocked, I think, a much more interesting question, which is, can we think about technology in ways that support diverse and marginalized people rather than thinking like our Western tools will save other people? That is a deeply flawed logic. Not only will it not work, it's also on some level unethical.
It's interesting that you say the digital divide was sexy. Like it was a sexy thing to talk about and be interested in. And when you think about like Facebook Free Basics, which I guess is internet.org now, that was the big thing that Mark Zuckerberg was pushing. Like we're going to get the internet to everyone. And you don't hear him say anything about it at all anymore. And like it just seems like it's a completely different company what they're dealing with now. So why do why did it fall out of favor? And is it a good thing, or is there just another problem now with the way we think about the internet from a global perspective?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, the Facebook Free Basics program, just so I can explain that, was Facebook's attempt to expand access to the internet to what are sometimes described as the next billion. Some say the term last billion, which is a term I find problematic, and some even use the term bottom billion. But actually, realistically, we're talking about 3 or so of the 7 billion in the people in the world that don't have really robust access to the internet. So Facebook and Google, in different ways, are trying to expand access to the internet. Now, the Free Basics program was problematic from the start. And the reason why it was problematic was because it wasn't a net neutral internet. It wasn't an internet that respected the openness that has always been part of the internet in its best moments. It was an internet that was skewed toward those who advertised with Facebook. So what you're actually getting is something like a mail order catalog or like some kind of like set of advertisements, right? And that is not the internet, and that's not the internet that is desirable. So, that project got some scrutiny, and it got booted out of India, which was a pretty notable moment. And now Facebook is, of course, really, dealing with quite a bit of other forms of criticism. So I think as a result of it, I think it's not trying to deal with the Free Basics program, but I have no doubt in my mind that it's in Facebook's best interest to try to spread access to the internet, even if that internet is open. The reason why is because more people connected to the internet generally means more people connected to Facebook or Facebook owns products. So remember, Facebook shouldn't be just defined by that social media website we go to. Facebook is a corporation, and as a corporation, it has strategically acquired a set of other companies that suit its interests. Instagram is the most notable. WhatsApp is another. These are companies that have billions of users, over 1 billion users in the case of WhatsApp, and the data goes to one place. It goes to Facebook. So it's in Facebook's interest to expand access to the internet. I thought it was particularly ridiculous that they were trying to push forward an advertiser-only internet or an advertiser-sponsored internet. But fortunately, it seems like they've backed up on that a little bit, at least at this point.